Kamala Harris. There's been a lot of critiquing of Kamala Harris's record and some pushback about that critiquing. We'll talk about that right here on TBTV. All right, so as you guys know, Kamala Harris is running for president. She's running for the nomination. Let's say running for president. You know, we need to stop saying people are running for president, okay? Kamala Harris will be running for the nomination in the Democratic Party. That's what she'll be running for, right? And we also know that Tulsi Gabbard is running as well, right? These things are what we know. So now that Kamala Harris has thrown her hat into the ring, of course there are people that are criticizing her. They're looking at her. They're looking at her record. They're being critical. They're looking at her. They're looking at her record. Looking at her. Looking at her record. They're asking questions like, "Hey, Kamala, when you were California Attorney General, why did you make people stay locked up? And why did you put money over people's freedom? They qualified to be released, but you were like, hey, it'd be too much to let them go right now because that would be a downturn in our economics. Why you didn't prosecute this Weasley snake who stole people's homes and had them put out on the street, Steve Mnuchin? Why didn't you do that?" So people have been asking these type of questions because, you know, well, you're running and you want to get the nomination, and we think you want to get votes, and those things are kind of, you know, bad. They're not good. So people want to know about them, okay? And there's an article, a great article by Teodros Fikre of the GuianJournal.com, and he alerted me to it. I'm like, wow, that's a good article. It's called "Evoking Muckrackers: Hannah Georgie's Devastating Critique of Senator Kamala Harris." Now, Hannah Georgie's, she wrote a piece in The Atlantic, and I encourage you to go check it out. And in her piece, and also in Teodros' piece, they talk about all the misgivings, the missteps of Kamala Harris, and how now she's been repackaged because she put out a memoir, an autobiography. Yeah, an autobiography. And it's full of a lot of platitudes, but it doesn't answer important questions like, hey, cop, why be a cop? And hey, cop, what about all the black and brown people you locked up? Like, it doesn't answer those types of questions. It doesn't answer like, hey, person now who's claiming to carry the lantern of criminal justice reform and civil rights, Black Lives Matter, why weren't you saying that when you were actually a person in charge who can make changes because that's what your job was? A president does a lot of stuff. A district attorney does like very specific things. You know, a California Attorney General does very specific things that directly impact these people that you say you're a champion for. Why don't you have a long list of things that you did that are fantastic for those people? I mean, you know, since now that you're running for the nomination. Hey guys, and I'm not saying that she doesn't have a long list of accolades from her time spent in these positions. All I'm going to say is, where are they? That's all. Okay? Now, this is what we've been seeing too much of. What we've been seeing too much of is stuff like this. This is what we've been seeing too much of. This right here. It's by Tom Watson, a guy on Twitter who I've spoken to once or twice before, always in a way of me questioning what the hell is he talking about. In this particular tweet he sent out, he said, the anti-Kamala Harris campaign by the Sanders-oriented, predominantly white progressive left has started. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. See? So that's what he sent out. And see, it's starting already, guys, where Any critique of Kamala Harris has these guys running out. Just running out, defending her without answering any of the questions I just posed. Tom is not unique in this, in this action. Others do it too. See, their way to defend Kamala is to say other people are racist when they question Kamala. But no one's questioning if Kamala, where she get her hair did. No one's questioning what kind of hot sauce she has in her purse. No one's questioning, does she like Frankie Beverly and Maze? And if they play that song at the cookout. No, we're questioning her track record. Same thing with Beto O'Rourke. We're questioning her track record, just like we question his track record. And to Tom Watson, who declined my offer to come on my show and explain why is he marginalizing black people on the left who just so happen not to support candidates like Hillary Clinton. He declined to come on because he says that's not what he's doing. But he's definitely weaponizing race in his tweet when he says predominantly white people, Sanders supporters are the ones questioning Kamala, as if black guys like me aren't doing it. And how do you know it's predominantly white guys that are questioning Kamala? Maybe if more black people were aware of what's going on with Kamala, they question her too. Sort of like a couple of people that I've interviewed. One person I interviewed who spent some time in California prisons, who was one of those people that were impacted by the decision-making of Kamala Harris. I think that there's just not enough scrutiny of candidates, whether you black, white, Latino, or what have you. But when those questions arise, respond to those questions with policy points, with actions that have been done, not rhetoric. Actions that they have done, because, see, politicians do things that shut down noise. Politicians have the ability, they have the unique ability, unlike activists, well, activists can too, but politicians to a larger degree, they are people that are in positions where they get to actually do things that prove where they stand and where they do not stand. And my thing is this, back before she was a senator, when she was California's top cop, did she act in a way of someone who was for civil rights and for poor people and black people and poor Latinos and poor white people in California? And I think when you start looking at that, when you start looking at that record and you say, hey, I don't care that she's a black woman, I don't care that she's black, I don't care her father's Jamaican, her mother's from, I don't know, somewhere in India, I don't care. I just want to look at what she did. When you start looking at that, when you forget that she went to Howard, and you ask, why did she send Jamal to jail, right? Why didn't she be as tough as she was on poor people? Why didn't she be that tough on the rich autocrats or plutocrats in California, bastards like Steve Mnuchin? Why was she so feather-handed with Steve Mnuchin and so heavy-handed with Tanisha and Daquan? See, I think it's the opposite, Tom. I think it's really pro-black. I think it's very black to ask these questions. You think it's only white guys who voted for Bernie Sanders that would ask these questions. But there are some black people that would ask these questions, like your man Tim Black, that would ask them and not apologize when they asked them. And that's the reason why I will never get an opportunity to ask them of you or of her. Because you would rather gaslight on Twitter than to actually answer those questions. Because you would have no rebuttal, no retort whatsoever to my question. Because there is no retort. There is no feasible explanation for why you do not prosecute a Steve Mnuchin, but you prosecute the hell out of 18 and 17-year-olds. Be here Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the debut of my new show, Chopping It Up with Tim Black. Chopping It Up with Tim Black is a show segment where I have multiple guests and we talk about multiple issues. All right? It's going to be fire. All right, so you're going to have different types of guests. Sometimes it'll be politicians, sometimes it'll be journalists, sometimes it'll be a mix of those things. It may be celebrities, it may be activists, it may be candidates. We're going to have a mix of guests, okay? So this week's guest will be everyone's favorite Ohio activist, Portia Bojan, everyone's favorite progressive candidate of Texas, Sima Hernandez, and everyone's favorite writer extraordinaire and journalist, Teodris Fikre of the Guyane Journal. And I, your host, Tim Black, will be here. So be here Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Chopping It Up with Tim Black, where we will chop it up. Be here.